What's going on, Nation? Couple comments here. Want to come on here. Sharky Waters Nation live on YouTube. Gonna get in here on more live chats. Still trying to figure out the channel. Of course, the gun is my partner. So much love and respect to the gun. And Guns and I were just discussing how we want to build out this channel. I want to make some commentary. I'm going to come back a little bit in the chair and sit down and talk to you guys about some stuff I want to discuss. Not entirely sure how many people are watching this, but I do want to do one thing, and I want to cheers you guys on a beautiful Tuesday morning here, 2:20 a.m. Eastern. I'm taking a small break from my life, which is highly chaotic, highly therapeutic, so much going on. I cracked a Bud Light. I did one chat in the beginning of this YouTube channel, and I cracked a Bud Light. I had one in the fridge. I said, I'm going to do a mirror effect. I'm going to come back on it. I'm having Bud Light with you guys right now, so cheers to you guys who are watching this. Cheers to you guys who are watching this in the future. Going to have a little conversation here. As I said, cheers up, fears down. And ultimately, you know, I'm gonna put my leg over my. This is what I do. I put my leg over my hips, and I stretch my hips when I talk because I'm always trying to stretch my hips and feel comfortable and healthy, and try to figure out a way to feel a beautiful life. And as we go into this next week and we go into college football, NFL football, we go through the entire process of our life. There's just so much to discuss, and I take a breath, and I really do take a breath. And when I say that you guys see me on the air during the shows, I take a breath for numerous reasons. One, and I think the principal reason, it's a very centering point for me. And when I'm running through games and I'm running through them at a rapid pace, the recognition in my mind that there's a breath gives me some sort of peace of mind and a little bit of freedom in those moments in the shows. And it's funny when you say peace of mind, it sounds like maybe it's chaotic. It's not chaotic in a bad way, but it is so rapid paced. And there's just so many things going on the shows. And I say to myself, take a breath, and we go on. And it just centers me. And it's just one of those things that I've really connected with. And when I talk about it, it's one of those things where I connected with it through my own process of life as I worked with myself and as I, really got into my own life. And I started to think to myself, what the hell is life, bro? And I said, Graham, like, who the hell are you? What's going on, bro? And, this is part of the conversation I want to bring to this channel on YouTube specifically is deep life conversation because sports media is very, very unique, and it's very competitive, and it's very, very skill oriented. And I said this when I opened up the conversation going back 5-6 months ago, whenever that was, and I said we're going to bring the top level of commentary, analysis, and entertainment on this channel. And what I mean by that specifically is that I firmly believe that combining entertainment with sports prognostication is incredibly, incredibly difficult and unique. And I know this having gone back in the last 5 to 7 years, most mainstream media has gone from being somewhat predictive in their commentary, aka picking games not against the spread, to now having legitimate segments and shows targeting against the spread analysis. And when I first started creating my channel, I got to be honest with you guys, it would have been very easy to just give sports picks on the money line. Money line betting is adjusted for a reason. It's easier. And that's what you get in mainstream media. It's usually just money line picks at point of analysis. The adjustment point on the ATS level is a totally different atmosphere, totally different conversation. And when I started doing Sharky Waters Nation in the fall of 2018, wild to say 5 years ago, on Twitter, I said to myself, I'm going to bring something so unique to people that they never heard before. And when I first started getting the Twitter angle going, what I thought was so interesting was one of the first things that really connected with me was people that bet sports call themselves degenerates. And I was honestly so new to the sphere of gambling Twitter on on Twitter, X now and the whole thing. But it applies to YouTube and it applies to Instagram, and it applies to any platform. And this whole word, degenerate nation, struck me the wrong way because I realized a couple of things. I realized most people expect to lose. They think of their gambling and their sports betting as a vice, a problem, and an expected loss. And I've been professionally gambling since I was about 23 years old in 2008. I don't expect to lose. I don't even consider losing remotely a point of conversation. In fact, I consider losing to be apocalyptically incorrect for what we're doing. And going through this process over the course of the last 15 years of my life and 5 years on the internet, and now exclusively, in these conversations on YouTube, I do not expect to lose. And hearing the word degenerate nation, which people still spread left, right, and center across the board on Monday through Friday, baseball, basketball, hockey, and football. Doesn't matter what sport. Degenerate nation is a real thing. And I have a firm disconnect with that because I feel like I'm a human being with everybody else. We're all best friends. We want to win. Why are we allowing ourselves to say this is a bad habit? Why are we degenerates in the process of our analytical responsibility? And that's something that I made a comment on 5 years ago in the fall of 2018. It was the first time I'd ever really commented on the internet on something. And it came back into my mind because I feel so passionately about it. And I really feel passionately about the fact that as a community of people who are betting and gambling on sports, we have to disassociate from this idea that we are degenerates. And I think that it's a beautiful thing to acknowledge you're a competitor, not a degenerate. You are a competitor. You love competition. You love making a game a sport for yourself. And you love the fact that every game becomes some sort of trophy atmosphere for yourself. It's fun, it's competitive, it's analytical, it's psychological, and it's beautiful. And so I just want to take that word off the edge a little bit because I think that applies to people that have some sort of problem, and maybe you're not feeling a good vibe in themselves and whatever. And with Sharky Waters Nation, as I said, I've been gambling professionally since I got out of college in 2008. I never did anything else. I was briefly working stocks and just doing some stuff, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. It was kind of my natural energy, my calling, and my whole thing. And I just kind of started betting sports. I was a bit of a novice at that point in time. It took me a long time to figure out the numbers and the narratives and figure out what's going on, but I really had a deep seeking and deep calling towards it. And I was very, very much exposed to the whole degenerate nation idea. I lived in New York City and people were very much hyper competitive. They were very narrative, hot take oriented, and people really always had a side on a game. And they were always betting, and it was often underground at that point in time, offshore. It wasn't legalized in the States at that point in time. And I really connected with that from a gambling perspective that, a lot of people have basically no edge on the game, and they are really throwing dice more or less within sports betting, in terms of, if you want to correlate to that. And, we used to go down to the street. I was down there, and I used to live on in Gramercy Park, Irving Place and 17th. It was a beautiful lot, beautiful spot. And a bunch of people down there on the block they were always gambling on football. And it was one thing that really struck me is why are people always gambling on football? Because I was a huge basketball fan. I grew up in New York City, and I went to high school in New Jersey, and I have a huge allegiance to New York City basketball. I'm a huge Knicks fan. And, obviously it lets me down from a fandom standpoint, but it did do one thing that really put me into a great place in my life is that I know professional basketball very well. And that certainly helps me in handicapping professional basketball. But people don't like to bet basketball. across the grid, people like to bet football first. And it's super interesting because they like to bet football first because it's one day a week. And that's the fundamental reason that books make so much money off of people, because it's only one day a week. And the average Joe, the average guy, office pool, fantasy sports, ESPN, Fox Sports, whatever, one game a week, they hyper sensationalize the commentary on it, and people want to bet it. And they're also so blindfolded to the truth of the game by the amount of media outlets giving them so many cross narratives about one game. And it's truly insane as to why people are getting demolished, literally demolished, in terms of sports betting in football specifically. And it's why we do the shows we do, to try to give you guys some sort of analysis, but we just try to default say it's really hard, because betting the NFL is not an easy proposition. And I see some guys in the chat. Let me see if I can pull up the chat here. Are we live? I'm trying to see what's going on here. Anybody in the chat? If you guys are watching, drop some comments in the chat so I can see who's in here. As I mentioned, we're trying to build this channel, myself and the gun. We're right in here trying to build the channel. So this is going to be a source of a ton of commentary, specifically because YouTube definitely has a great outlet for for the conversation. So if you guys are in here, drop some comments. I appreciate that immensely. But I will continue talking because I love to talk to you guys, and I love to give you guys my insight as to what's going on in the whole thing. I'm gonna take a sip of beer and we'll chat a little bit further. Next thing I want to talk about is the progress of the show with myself and the gun. You know, when a couple of years ago in the summer of 2021, the gun hit me up and he said, "Hey, what's up? Like, you want to do some content? I'm kind of fucking around with some stuff. Like, what's going on?" And as I mentioned in a Twitter video, I'm still trying to figure out how to call Twitter X, like by default, but X video. In the middle of the summer this year, I told you guys I used to really, really profit college football as one of my prime sources of profit in sports betting, going back through the years 2014, 15, 16, 17, mostly off the record, pre-Sharky Waters Nation, with the great Fusini. And he and I had a little bit of a chat last weekend, and we said, enough bullshit. Let's put out the plays. Let's put out the real plays. That's why we put out Iowa State first half. That's why he put out Oregon State first half. First half spots in college football are immensely, immensely creditable, and they're great. And that's what we used to cash on. And I said this on X, and I'll say it here. One of our best days, we went 17-0 in first half bets, just on heavy first half splits, proportional splits, revenge games, zigzag effect points. And we were up close to 10 grand in like close to an hour. Just only looking, not even looking at the game, just looking at the proportional splits of the lines. And of course, obviously, it's not going to always happen like that, but it's a great, great template to success in college football betting. Proportional analysis, first half and second half, in terms of home road efficiency and numerical splits in Vegas. And but the gun and I have decided that we are going to build this channel because the gun was working on a different channel. And I said to the gun, I said, listen, this is my life. This is my life. First of all, I live my life in one way, twofold. Be selfish first. Be selfish to be selfless. And all I really do in my life as a fundamental baseline for myself is take care of myself physically and emotionally every day. And then when I'm done taking care of myself with my workouts and my meditation, then I come to you guys and I say, what's going on? Because I have nothing, there's no edge in my life, and I have nothing left to compete with for other people. And I want to give you guys the most authentic decency of my person. And the Gun and I were talking about this, and he had been working on another channel, and we had different channels and like moving points and basically things that were getting in the way of each other. I said to him, I said, if we really want to connect with people, not only from a branding perspective, but in terms of an actual sourcing and centeredness in conversation, we have to do it under one brand. It is Sharky Waters Nation. And Gun said to me, without any sort of hesitation, I'm in. Let's go. So that's why you saw the Gun on here on Saturday morning on Sharky Waters Nation. And this is the beauty of legitimate respect and business collaboration. He's not taking his quality away. In fact, he's getting even more big time for himself. That show with Mike M was electric. It was conversational. It was powerful. It was the Gun in his element. And I think that one of the best things about what I'm trying to accomplish here is that I'll host certain shows and the Gun will also host certain shows. And when we both get on the air together, we will be the combination energy in the show, the Shark and the Gun. And that's what I always try to accomplish with people. And I understand his quality. His quality is immense. He's very, very talented as an on-air personality. And he has a lot of big-time energy, competitive energy, but more importantly, ability to really work on the air, which is a unique point. So I want to make that point for the Gun. And I also want to make that point for the channel that the Gun will be a huge component. We're working towards a partnership, and we will be building this out immensely for other people who want to work with us. There's been numerous people that have reached out to me and said that truthfully, they want to do sports commentary and content. And I'm working to figure out exactly where we're going in that angle. A couple guys that I will mention, Junior Brown. I've had a couple great conversations with Junior. We're working towards some basketball commentary and shows, which I'm very excited to do. You guys know I love basketball more than any sport on the planet. It makes me smile even saying that. I see my guy Imal in the house. I know Imal loves the NBA just like me. I think you're from LA. Imal, my guy. What's up, brother? Sports Pub in the house. What's going on, brother? Guys, drop commentary in the chat. I will interact with you. I will always interact if you guys give comments, and I love you guys so much. And, the NBA season is coming up right now within the next, 3 to 4 weeks. It's going to be an incredible, incredible journey handicapping. It's going to be a journey as fans, all of us as fans across the country and the world. And, it's a beautiful time to be an NBA fan. We've talked about this for numerous years, but it's a beautiful thing for one really exclusive reason. There is legitimate parity in the NBA for the first time in probably 7 to 8 years. And one of the things that really held the NBA back from an entertainment standpoint was the fact that there were super teams that were basically more or less going to win the championship before the season even happened. And of course, certain fan bases had great, great times winning titles. But in terms of the actual sport, stacking the rosters where nobody else had a chance was not great for the sport. And we're starting to see parity in the league. And I think the league started to realize that, maybe this isn't the best route to go. Maybe it's not the best thing to do. And there's definitely a couple of commentary points on that and the super teams and the whole thing. And I will make one comment on this chat. So we're just free flowing here on a beautiful Tuesday morning. But, I do think that when it really started in the very beginning, excuse me, guys, when it really started in the beginning, people like to go back to the Celtics in 2008, but it wasn't the Celtics in 2008. It was actually the LeBron Heat, because the difference between the Celtics in 2008 and the Heat 2010 was the Celtics at that point in time were free agents and trades mostly. Actually, excuse me, they were trades exclusively. It was Kevin Garnett coming over, and it was also Ray Allen coming over after 30. But when LeBron went to Miami, you guys remember the deadline in 2010, the decision. It was obviously like just whatever you want to call it, apocalyptic, certainly ignorant from a marketing standpoint, pretty aggressive. I think most New York fans were pretty insulted. I was 25 years old at the time. I thought to myself, what is he doing? And I thought it was just a joke almost. But regardless of that point, going to Miami at that point in his career when he was only 25 with Dwayne Wade, who I think was 27 at the time, and Chris Bosh was right in that generation. That was the first time in NBA history, as far as I know, at least in my lifetime, that three superstars pre-age of 30 signed together in one conference, coming from the same conference together, which is the ultimate level of corruption, if you want to call it that. And that's where super teams come to the point of conversation. It's corruption. And corruption obviously takes on a bit of a sinister conversational point. It's not that. It's not sinister, but it's more so the fact that when you have three of the best players in the conference all in their prime come together on one team, it disrupts the competitive flow of that conference and also the league. And I think that was really when it became a problem. And then, of course, like accentuating that so much further was Kevin Durant going to the Warriors. Because when Kevin Durant went to the Warriors, July 1st, I believe it was 2014, I actually posted on Facebook back when I was Facebook friendly, pre-Twitter, X, and YouTube. I said, verbatim, word for word, Kevin Durant ruined basketball. And I firmly believe that to this day. I firmly believe he ruined the competitive quality of that generation of basketball. There was no reason that he should have ever gone to the Warriors from a competitive standpoint. And, obviously they won titles. He did his thing. It was the culture of the time. LeBron had set the standard with Chris Bosh going to Miami. I get it. But it was so much bigger than LeBron going to Miami for one principal reason, because Kevin Durant had lost the Western Conference Finals to the Warriors the previous season. And it had been one of the best professional playoff games of all time in his own gym. And that's where I think, truthfully, I don't know Kevin Durant. I've studied him. I listen to him. I see how he tweets. I think he just had really poor guidance from his coaches, his personal coaches, his inner camp, and the whole thing. I firmly believe that KD did not want to go to the Warriors. And I think that's why you saw later on a bit of a beef between himself and Draymond Green on the court. Because I feel like KD never felt comfortable there. He never felt like it was the right decision. There was a lack of fluidity in the process. It felt like he was taking his soul off the table. And I feel like he's a soulful guy. You guys saw when he got the key to the city in Oklahoma City, his mom was there, was crying. The average guy doesn't just cry. That's a soulful human being. He cares. I think he made the wrong decision. He knew it. I think he struggled with it ever since, actually. And just a question. I want to engage the chat here, my guy. Which player from the 90s does KD remind you of? I don't think any player from the 90s, truthfully, because I think that he's the only guy. I don't think there was any player in that generation that was 6'11" or 7 feet that could literally play shooting guard like that, Like there were certain guys back in the day that were tall that could shoot threes, but they didn't have the handles inside of the arc. So I think he's one of one. I really think he's one of one. I think he's also, like an archetype. Like I think people come off of him. I think he's the beginning of a new generation of player. And I think obviously you see guys like Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram is like just an absolute clone of the guy, but it's not even close to the quality. But there's other guys that Kevin Durant is the archetype. I actually don't think there was anybody before him at all. And I do firmly believe that he actually didn't really want to go to the Dubs. And that's why there was a beef with Draymond, and that's why he ended up leaving. And I feel like he kind of felt this weird pressure. I also felt like he didn't like Russell Westbrook. I think Russell Westbrook kind of so big time, always so big time. I think KD just didn't know how to function. And I think that's part of the reason why KD's moved around the league a little bit. Because I think KD just doesn't he's never really connected with anybody. If I had to be honest with you guys, I think that maybe Steph Curry, because Steph Curry is one of the most just underspoken, well-worked champions of all time. I don't know. like I just think that KD is like highly enigmatic. I think he's very interesting. Enigmatic has a negative connotation. I don't necessarily think he has a negative connotation towards himself. I just think he's a very, very unique guy. I mean, as I said, he's archetype one of one. And I think that like he just felt like he couldn't coexist in Oklahoma City. Not only that, but if you guys think about the time process, the age, those guys were in their early 20s at that point in time. You know, that team was so stacked with talent, but they gutted the franchise. And you think about within that franchise, they had a young James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Kevin Durant with an Ibaka under 27 as well. And they didn't stay the course of the process, which is insane. But this is also where guys like Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden, who all have had, I would say, disturbed careers, which is ridiculous to say, but it is actually what happened. I think that's Sam Presti. I think that's a bad front office environment. I think it's bad coaching because you got to remember when guys come into the league, they can be very much mismanaged and scarred by a bad GM and a bad coach. And I'm not saying Scott Brooks was a bad coach for them, but I think the GM, and what I mean by that is the overwhelming pressure to succeed, where the GM is under the pressure of the owner. The owner, you also have to remember, moved the team from Seattle to Oklahoma City. So he's feeling so much pressure within just the city to perform and also probably feeling backlash from Seattle. But I think this is absolute chaos where theoretically that team should have had like an 8-year window to succeed. Literally, an 8-year window. They cut that off after 3. But I think that was the owner coming from Seattle feeling stressed, the front office, the whole thing, rushing the process. And I think that's partially why these guys are scarred. And that's true psychology. And it's dead honest truth. Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook have never had fluid careers. None of them. And they all came from a great source. They were young on the same team. They could have worked together to win titles. But Sam Presti was moving everything around, and the owner was coming from Seattle to Oklahoma City. We don't know the guy, but if you just think psychologically, he got so much shit from Seattle, and he was a businessman in Oklahoma City. A lot of businessmen, if we're being honest, are a bit manipulative. They're not fluid. So KD, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden in the very beginning of their career were like little kids in a bad family. And they got scarred. And they've acted that way ever since. All of them. If you really think about every single one of them psychologically, they're not all the same, but they're all noticeably scarred. They have no loyalty. They're kind of aloof. They're a little bit off the grid with their activity. They're disloyal. Everything about it. And it's if you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder core at that point with Presti and the ownership group, it's the perfect example of a bad family when kids are young, when they're 5, 6, 7, and 8. If the family has bad parents and disloyal entity about it, the kids will never learn to feel loyalty or connection in their life. And that's pretty much exactly what's happened with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden throughout their entire career. And you think about that, it's just mind-blowing shit. It's mind-blowing. Gonna take a sip. Yeah, and even Ibaka never really came up in the game. You know, like he never really he kind of became a journeyman. Like he's so skilled, but he just became a journeyman to a certain degree. You know, but I look at things like obviously you guys know how I look at things, but it's very interesting because you think about it, these guys just happen to be drafted one pick, left, right, or center of where they were. The whole world would be different and they would react so much differently to situations. And I just feel like everything has gone, honestly, I hate to say it, but like borderline worst possible scenario for these guys. Like Kevin Durant won titles, but he won titles kind of as everybody wanted to say he was the best player. He was the best player, but he didn't do it in the sense that he was a LeBron you know, or he was a Steph Curry in the Celtics series later on. You know, Steph has won a title by himself. LeBron has won a title by himself. Kevin Durant has never won a title by himself. And I think he's capable of doing it. I just don't think he was ever taught how to do it. And I think part of that, I think maybe more than part of it, but I think principle to it is the fact that he was just so psychologically mismanaged in the beginning of his career. He's a very scarred individual. So he doesn't trust himself in terms of component orientation to franchises where he just kind of bounces around because again what I'm saying component orientation is like where like he really trusts himself so much in his own mind where he's like I'm going to be this guy I'm going to run this franchise myself and the greats always run the franchise themselves. Michael, Kobe, Steph, LeBron. The only reason why LeBron is mobile is because he had a beef with Dan Gilbert. And also, I do think, again, going back on the psychological point, I think the media put LeBron in a really difficult spot. I mean, if you guys remember going back in the draft 2003, people were blowing up LeBron. And if you follow LeBron, I mean, I think, if you start to really analyze what LeBron is, a couple points really stand out. First of all, I think the core point is who do you associate with in your life professionally? You become a celebrity. Do you go the route of promiscuity, money, and lights and resorts and islands? No. LeBron married his high school sweetheart. He doesn't want that. He wants to grind. He wants to be a winner. He wants to be just a powerful human being. So when he makes a change and when he moves franchises, that speaks to the perimeter being very toxic, not LeBron being a tyrant in the game. And I think Dan Gilbert really was. I think Dan Gilbert was just a classic owner that just didn't respect the player. I think he didn't know what he was dealing with. I think LeBron was super young at that point in time. And Emal, I completely agree with you. Completely agree with you. But I do think that LeBron is an incredible human being. And I'm speaking in terms of like the depth of what I've seen from him as a person in the last 20, 25 years. I mean, he's a great human being. And I think that it was mostly the team and the front office and Dan Gilbert being completely tyrannical towards him. And, you think about every single superstar. And that's why I bring up the commentary about Kevin Durant, because I think Kevin Durant is an absolutely Hall of Fame quality superstar. But I think he's been emotionally moved around with the teams he's been in. I think core centric to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think it's worth repeating, but I think if Kevin Durant came into the league with a different team, he'd have a different career arc. I think he might not have been a sellout, if you want to call it that, because I will say that a bit of a sellout. It is authentic to say that when you lose the Western Conference Finals to a team and then you join that team the following season after they won a title, it's a sellout. You copped out. You circumvented the competitive process, and I don't think Kevin Durant is naturally a guy that wants to circumvent the competitive process. I just think he was pressured into it by a horrible situation there with the group and the front office and also the media just coming down on him as the next LeBron. But I think also the irony in that, and Emal, I love talking to you about basketball, everybody who's listening here, and we're going to grow this channel at the highest level. But I think that it's interesting that nobody ever considered Steph Curry to be a visionary basketball guy at that point in time. It was Michael, it was Kobe, it was LeBron, and it was Kevin Durant. And nobody ever thought about Steph Curry. They just thought, oh, Steph's a shooter from Davidson. And, it's funny, when I was doing the show with Jay Money, Jay always used to say to me, Shark, you're a Steph guy, like almost like a bad thing. Like he didn't like Steph. And I always thought to myself, why doesn't Jay like Steph? What's wrong with Steph? What's wrong? Why didn't you like Steph? And I was like, is that a problem that I like Steph? But I always liked Steph. I did like Steph. But I also like the fact that the media just neglected Steph. They really wanted to build up LeBron and Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and some of these other guys, James Harden. Steph Curry he was the guy from Davidson. His dad was a shooter for the Charlotte Hornets and the Alonzo Mourning era with Larry Johnson, these guys. That's why I like Steph Curry. I don't like Steph Curry because he makes me feel good or anything like that. I see his grind. Like I think he took the steps at the highest level like that a lot of guys did. Like, and people want to talk about like son of an athlete. Truthfully, son of an athlete is a curse. It's not a blessing. So for people that want to say that Steph Curry is, well, he had it good because he was the son of an athlete, I think it's the polar opposite. Most athletes' sons, first of all, are endowed with money, so they become complacent in their life as kids and adolescents. Not only that, but just the skill set doesn't translate. And oftentimes, the athlete father is such a big energy himself, the kid just subconsciously runs the other direction. So you see, like Michael Jordan's kids, perfect example. Went to UCF, just washed out, hanging out, whatever. And I mean, there's numerous other. I mean, obviously they all have kids, but it doesn't apply to every situation. But I just think that the fact that Steph grinded his fucking ass off, and I mean, I like him. I'm not gonna lie, but I thought it was interesting that that was a problem. I was like, why is it a problem that I like Steph Curry? But who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I saw LeBron play once. I saw him play in the United Center in Chicago in 2010. I was out there hanging out with my buddy Phil from college, and we saw LeBron play. He was only like 24 at the time. I just remember he was like chilling. I remember the only thing that I ever took away from it. This is when I was obviously like, I think you and I are probably the same age, roughly around like 38, 40. But at that point in my life, my evaluation, my discernment point in that moment was just like LeBron's hanging out. And I remember thinking to myself, like, he's not like full burning this game at all. And it was D Rose was in the building, the whole thing, but he was just kind of running. It was just up and down, whatever was going on. And I remember me and my buddy just like we're drinking beers and we're just kind of like, this is fine, but it's not super amazing. And Ziggy, what's up, brother? What's going on, my guy? And I think that's a great point about NBA basketball. We always talk about this in the regular season, like it's a run. It's kind of like a YMCA run for a lot of these guys, and like that's why handicapping it has such accessibility and profitability, because guys will just randomly run games like they're just in the YMCA hanging out. And this is it always, and I interpolate myself. I consider myself at every point in time, and I always think to myself, those experiences, oh, that makes sense now. And I think if you're really like getting into your life, just going philosophical for a half second, I think when you really get into your life, and you can get into your life at 20, 30, 40, 50, 80, whatever you are, but when you really get into your life, you start to realize that everything you ever saw and you witnessed made sense. And when you're not into your life, as I'm calling it, everything doesn't make sense. You're kind of in a scatter plot. Like you're seeing things, but you don't know how to interpret them. You don't know what they mean. But when you're really in your life, you know exactly what things mean, why they're happening, and what's going to happen in the future, because it's generally a pattern that's going to probably repeat itself in the future. And seeing LeBron coast that game is just a beautiful snapshot in 2010. He's playing D Rose in his second year at the United Center, and he's coasting the game. And me and my buddy Phil were sitting in the second level, pretty good seats, not great, but we were right there watching. I remember saying to my boy, like LeBron is not competing this game. Of course, at that point in time, I was 25 years old. I wasn't thinking about potentially it was a back-to-back. I didn't know if it was a back-to-back. Maybe it was. I don't know if they were on the back end of a road trip. I don't know how to look ahead game, was it a revenge game, whatever it was. But, these are the things we consider now. We'd be like, oh, that makes complete sense. But it just speaks to the fact that when you're younger, or maybe not so much younger, but just not, transparently clear in terms of what's going on in life, you miss things. Like I'm sure there was a good reason that LeBron was not competing at that level during that game. And I think that it's super fascinating for me as a person, as I go through my life, to start to see things now where I'm like, oh, that makes complete sense. But when I was younger, it made no sense. And it was like wildly confusing. But now it makes complete sense. And that's just what happens. And yeah, you're right. Imal, you're right. You're right. Imal, you're pretty much, I think you're like right around my age, right? Like you were born in the early 80s, something like that. I saw Jordan when I was coming up as a kid. And I remember my first Jordan memories were Jordan Bulls versus the Knicks. And it was these wars at the Garden with Pat Riley. and like really, really hard fought basketball games in the early 90s. And I remember like that's what you're 80. Okay, that's that, and I'm 85. So we're right there, right there. And obviously 5 year gap does matter to a certain degree, but it all merges together. And you know, a couple of my best friends were born in 79, 80 as well. So I'm right there with you. But it really was that, you know, in the early 90s, like when Jordan really came to his, you know, his prime years where he was a winner. I remember growing up when I was 6, 7, 8, 9 with the Knicks, and I was like, this guy Jordan just won't let us down, you know. And it was Ewing could never get over the hump, and it was just like torturous as a fan, especially as a young kid, the whole thing. So fucking wild, regardless, fucking wild. I can't tell how many people are on here. I'm just trying to brand the channel. I just want to come on here, and I'm going to be doing live shows on here because I get commentary. I think Twitter has actually shut off commentary on the chat. So taking a sip, gentlemen. Taking a sip. We're what 41 minutes in here. Beautiful thing. Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. So you were 10 at the 91 finals? That's fucking incredible, bro. That's fucking incredible. That's absolutely incredible. I mean, like you think about it, especially because you know when you start to think about it, like we can never recreate like these goats. You know, it's one of those things, but like I think about it all the time. You know, if I'm being like really honest, which is obviously the goal of the channel, but I think about it all the time. I think about, you know, like you miss, we've missed some times in our life with athletes for sure. Like we were around during the prime years of Jordan, Tiger Woods. You know, Tiger Woods is a great example. I mean, golf is so flat now. You know, excuse me, guys. Um, you know, Tom Brady just did a podcast with this guy Patrick Bet David on YouTube, and Tom was talking about how golfers are all like, you know, in a fraternity now. They don't even really compete. Like they're all just making so much money, it doesn't matter. And it's like there's something so beautiful about the previous generation in our youth where they wanted to win the game over their opponent, and they weren't going to just be friends with the opponent off the record. You know, like they actually cared about the environment. And Tom said it on this podcast, and it struck me. It really hit me because I said to myself, you know, that's who I am. You know, I'm a super competitive guy. Like I want to win. I respect the craft. And if you don't want to compete, like what are we doing in our life? You know, the reason why we exist as human beings is because we have to compete to just keep ourselves going, get our motor going. You know, and one of the best things that I've ever heard, and this is real truth. When Jarvis Landry was on Hard Knocks with the Browns, he said, "Bless them." And I thought to myself, what does that mean? Is that religious, whatever the fuck it is? And he said, no, I'm saying bless my opponents for giving me the opportunity to compete. And I really connected with that. I love that actually. And I was like, shit, that's awesome. I was like, so you want the person to be good. Like in life now, it's like about making people weak and like being like, I can win because they suck or I'm going to tear them down. And Jarvis Landry was like, no, I want them to be as strong as possible. So my opportunity is bigger. Bless them because they trained with me to be strong and compete with me and make me better. And that's the beauty of it, is that when other people are working their ass off alongside you to compete, it makes both sides better and stronger and more competitive and more peaceful in the process because you want people to be good. Like you don't want to be around flat people. Like you don't want to be around people that are getting handouts and doing nothing. So what? You get a handout, you sit in your couch and watch some bullshit ass TV. You want to be a creator in your life. Like if you're not a creator, you're doing nothing. You're just sitting around watching. It's like Tom Brady always says, like if you're not in the arena, who are you? Like you want to always be in the arena. And with Jarvis Landry, that commentary, I was like, fucking right, bro. Like real talk, like you're absolutely fucking right. Like I want my opponent to be training hard to make me better because it makes me train harder. And it's like it's this abundance quotient that you want to be around people that are working hard because it builds up the abundance of the group. And you get this other side of society, which absolutely exists. It's unfortunate, but it does exist. It's a deficient quality. It's do nothing, be worse, tear people down, talk shit, try to angle shoot people and ruin them so we can all just keep getting worse and then keep getting handouts, deflate the dollar, economic deficiency, all of it. And that's literally the worst way to live your life because you're going to be depressed. You're going to feel bad. You're going to be around negative energy. You're going to do nothing, nothing to get less of nothing. And that's the beautiful thing about doing a lot of things and associating with positive people that work their ass off to become abundant people is that it just breeds positive energy and it breeds work and growth. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful fucking thing. And that's how I function every day. I wake up every day and I say to myself two things. I say, are you going to work your ass off? And I look at myself and I say, absolutely, I'm going to work my ass off. And I say to myself another thing, which is more important. Are you going to regret what you did today? And I say, I look at myself every day and I say, no, I'm not. And then I say to myself, all right, so if you're not going to regret today, what are you going to do to make shit better right now? And then I immediately meditate a little bit. I get water, coffee in the morning. I always make eggs, bacon, and toast. And then I just start grinding numbers. I start betting. I start playing poker. I work out. I run every day. Every fucking day. Every fucking day. And every day is just a chase for your own personal greatness. That's it. And that's the beautiful thing about life is that every day you just chase your personal greatness. And if you ever connect with that, because I say that crazily enough, if you ever connect with that for yourself, you find a person inside of you didn't know existed. It's this deep, deep person, this person that is something that you never knew existed. It's a beautiful fucking thing. Beautiful fucking thing. And take a sip on that, guys. And the reason why I have beers in the back end is because it's just a celebration. It's a beautiful fucking thing. When you really go in your life, and I'm speaking to you guys in the chat, Ziggy, my guy, Emal, I appreciate you guys, but I'm not lecturing you guys literally. I'm just speaking to the internet because I know people listen to these things and people will discover these conversations and everything. But I really firmly believe your life is a chase to yourself. It's a chase to yourself. And it's your own opportunity to say, how am I going to dominate my own shit right now? And that's what I do. I always say to myself, what am I going to do for myself? And I firmly believe this. Be selfish to be selfless. Your selflessness comes from your selfishness. Because the more you're selfish for personal strength, the more you have the ability to be selfless for other people and really help people you care about. And it really comes down to what you do in your private moments and how much time you take personally for yourself to be the strongest version of yourself. And it's something I'm going to talk about more on YouTube, I think, because you guys know I'm passionate about it. I always defer to it. It's kind of how I always go towards the chat, which is obviously a self-witnessing point, but it's just what I'm passionate about. Because I'm passionate about it because I know it makes people feel good. And I know it makes everybody in the world feel good. There's no way in life you could not feel good if you really chase your own quality, physically and emotionally. And that's a beautiful thing. Email, absolutely. Absolutely it is, without question. Because what I do only takes about 2 hours a day. And I firmly believe that in the morning, before you get out of bed, you probably should be meditating for close to a half an hour. And meditation is not the way that YouTube would make you think. It's more so like a deep inspirational self-talk and breath work. Like when I wake up, I always wake up and I say to myself, you're opening the day. And I've said it to myself for about 5 straight years. So like the repetition of positive energy that I have in it is incredible. So when I say to myself, you're opening the day, I open up my eyes and I pray to the things I believe in, which is I believe in everything, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not highly religious, but I'm also super religious, which is paradoxical, but also one in the center. But I believe in all religions. I believe everybody has the same energy. And I believe everybody has the same intuition, desire, passion, and love. So I pray to everything. And when I pray to the universe and this dispersion of beauty that I really visualize, it gives back to me this amazing energy that I feel when I get up in the morning. I say, it's a beautiful day. You're in the beginning. You're in the beginning of an opportunity right now. And I feel so reborn every morning. And I have a lot of different things that I say to myself in terms of my patterns, my repetitions, what I believe in for myself, not religiously or anything, but like how I am as a person, what I've witnessed for myself, like how much work I've done for myself, therefore how much I trust myself. Like one of the things that I'm really, really in tune with is the mental trust that I get from working out. Because every time I put a workout on record that's really hard, I trust myself more in my physical human process of health. And health is the ultimate litmus test because when you're healthy, you feel better and you trust yourself more. So when I start to really go in there, I wake up after another day of having worked out the previous day. As I center myself, I say to myself, I trust you more. Every day I trust you more. This is what I say to myself. And I look up in the sky and I already acknowledge, I heard this from Matthew McConaughey, and I think Matthew McConaughey is one of the most fluidly meditative, intelligent people in Hollywood. He said his hero is his older self. And that really made me question what was going on because I said, what's your older self? Like, I thought we only had our past to reflect on. And that's when I started to understand this idea of energy bodies as human beings, not stagnant people on a flat scale. And if you really listen to Eastern medicine, you listen to yoga, deep meditation, it's a deep understanding that we're not really left or right. We're just energy bodies that hover in this present. So theoretically, there's no reason we should be so down on ourselves for the past when theoretically our future self is so optimistic in our mind. And I always allow my past self to just be an experience to be better now. And I always talk to my older self and I say to my older self, I trust you. And my older self always says, I trust you. And the thing that's so interesting is that most people only talk to their younger self as a point of experience. And oftentimes, unfortunately, it's a point of regret because you're always saying to yourself, like, what I did wrong, how I want to fix it. But I think if you can paradigm shift yourself to talk to your older self first, don't talk to your younger self, talk to your older self. Your older self is theoretical, but your whole life is theoretical. That's the thing that people may not be connecting with. Your whole life is theoretical. We don't know where we are. We don't know where we're going. So let it be theoretical. But the beauty of theoretical is that you can talk to your older self. And your older self will tell you, it's all good. I'm already here. I'm in the middle of the universe. I'm gone. So be good. I trust you. I feel you in that moment. And that's some of the best stuff that I've ever told myself is when I stopped talking to my younger self, I let my younger self go. And I said, I'm hovering here. And I talked to my older self and I said, my older self told me, he's like, Graham, you're an old guy now. You're gone. But you're there in that moment. So you have the opportunity. And it's fucking beautiful. And I love you for it because you're going to be gone. I'm already gone. Just as much as I'm already dead in the past. It's all this fucking thing. And I talk to my older self every day. I firmly believe there's an older self that I'm already gone. Like, this might sound insane. I know my guy Zuby, music fucking legend, believes this type of meditative stuff. My guy Vivek Ramaswamy believes this stuff. These are my dudes. They don't know me, but they are my guys. I'll talk to them one day for sure. This is meditative quality of life because we're all energy bodies. We're not finite points in the present. We're not here. We're not really here. Like we're just like transient in this energy sphere. So you can't be so attached to your past. You have to allow your future to also be a point to allow you to feel freedom and say to yourself, you know what? I'm pretty much gone anyway. So what the fuck? What am I going to do? I'm going to enjoy my life. And if I'm going to enjoy my life, what does enjoyment mean to me? And if enjoyment means to you good things, and it means getting in shape, and it means feeling good in the process, that's what you do. And that's where, like, every day that I wake up, I say to myself, you know what? This is a blessing. And it's not arbitrary and it's not random. This is my intention in this day. I want to do a great show. I want to handicap sports. And I want to connect with myself first and talk to myself and see how I feel and really talk to myself as to why I feel that way in a really deep way. And then when I'm done with that, you know what? Because that takes me about 5 hours. That's when I can come on to Twitter and YouTube and talk to people. And that's the beautiful thing about about life is that, you get 24 hours in a day. You have so much time to self-process before you go out into the public sphere and really express yourself. And that's what I do. I take easily 2 to 4 hours in the morning to get myself into a great spot and really figure myself out. And it's not just waking myself up in like a basic way. It is that deep interpretation of myself as this center point to all moments combined in the present, as this beautiful, agglomeration of moments. And Ziggy, I see you on that, bro. 100%. We all do. We all do. We all do. And I think one of the things that that I worked on, and I still work on it. I think we all still work on it. It's a ever going process. Is that those things they were never really things that we knew about. I firmly believe this for a good person. I think 99% of people are good with their intention and their decency. Mistakes are just things that you didn't know at that point in time. So you can't let yourself feel down on yourself. You just didn't know. Your life is a process. So say to yourself, you know what? I didn't know at that point in time. I made a mistake, but I did learn from it. And that's the positive energy you can find from it. So you don't feel so much regret. You say to yourself, I would have never known what I know now if I didn't go through that experience that was a potentially negative experience for myself. And obviously certain things you can't take back, but I do think almost every single experience that might have a negative connotation in your mind will give you insight into the future in a positive way. And I think that's a good way to look at it. And I think it's a good way to, tabulate in your mind as an archive as to what works for you and how you feel. 100%. And I mean, like, bro, I could go through a laundry list of things that, mistakes I made for sure. And I was very regretful myself. I've had low moments without question, low moments for sure. And through a lot of different thought processes that I've undergone myself, I got to give a lot of credit to my guy David Goggins for incredible positive energy. Sean T, personal trainer, amazing. Rudy Reyes, he's the guy on Fox, ex-Marine, incredibly inspirational. A couple of those guys, not cliche, guys that I listen to that inspire the fuck out of me and get me in my mindset when I'm not feeling great. Like everybody needs a mentor and a coach, no matter who you are. And a couple of those guys, like Rudy Reyes is a great example. I was listening to Rudy Reyes the last year and a half. I really connect with the dude. Like he's kind of like a loner. Like he started dating some girl who's like 25 when he's 50. Like he was in the Marines. Like he had like a bit of a lonely childhood. Super good looking, smart, like powerful as fuck. Super loving. Like if you guys look up Rudy Reyes, like Rudy Reyes is a guy that I'd love to meet in person. I think he's just incredibly inspirational. I think he's very therapeutic. I think he's very actualizing himself, his mind, the whole thing. And there's so much beauty in just people in general. I mean, really, just in people in general. I mean, like, it's never about one person. Emal, Joe Rogan. Oh yeah, 100%. I listen to Joe. I don't listen to Joe as much as I probably should. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting point. Like, I don't know why I don't listen. I mean, I think that actually just between the group of us here in this conversation, I do so much content myself that like when I'm done doing content, it's hard to consume content. I'm like so drained. I would love to listen to it if I had a moment. It sounds ridiculous, but the moments are fleeting sometimes. Ziggy, you're talking the truth, no doubt. Yeah, Sean T's a great dude. I mean, honestly, Sean T did this workout series going back to like 2009 or something when he was just in a gymnasium. And I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it, Insanity. And he just does a workout video in a gym. I'm not sure where he was, but it's just in a gym, like a high school gymnasium. And back when I was, I don't know, maybe like 27, 28, something like that, I was, trying to figure out what was going on. And I saw this video. And one of my guys at the time was like, yo, try this Insanity stuff. And I was like, what is it? He was like, it's like a home workout. You kind of just do a bunch of workouts like in your basement. And I was like, I was like, all right. Then like, I was a gym guy. Like I love to lift weights. I love to get in the gym, like listen to music, be around the dudes, whatever. And I was like, all right, let me try it. And I clicked the video and I gotta be honest with you guys, I love it. I've loved it ever since. Changed my life. I've probably been in a gym like 10 times in the last 10 years. And I'm in the best shape of my life. All I do is train body weight, high intensity interval training, and I run and I stretch. I do yoga every day. Yoga is the gift that keeps on giving. It's deep pliability, it's mental strength, it's fortitude, it's connection. And high intensity interval training and movement, it is what it is. It's the absolute access point to personal happiness and sustainability. And I would encourage you guys. I mean, like I've been trying to do content on this for a long time. I just didn't know how to broadcast it because it's so hard to broadcast fitness content. Like to do fitness content, like you have to like, have like 4 cameras, like peripheral and like zoomed out the whole thing. And I'm also not a fitness instructor. I actually only wanted to do a video. I made this comment on Twitter in the middle of the summer. I only wanted to do a video because I wanted people to, because I know people connect with me and I love the fact that people connect with me. But I want people to connect with the workouts I do because I really do workouts almost every single day. And it's the massive point of my life. And I want people to connect with it. So I was trying to figure out a good video quality aspect to it. That's why I never did it. Actually, I actually have no shame in recording myself working out. I love to do it, but it just the video is so bad. Like because these videos are so small window. Like if I'm doing a recording, like I need a full like setup with like a overhead in the back and the whole fucking thing. So trying to figure it out, honestly. Taking a sip, gentlemen. But I think I'm going to wrap it up on that, guys. Just a little over an hour. Just free flowing here. Sharky Waters Nation. Want to give a shout out to my guy, The Gun. Just messaged him before I went on this chat and told him I want to really ante up what we're doing here and grow the channel. And I appreciate you guys so much in the chat. Obviously, it's only the 3 of us. Imal, you're my guy. I appreciate you so much. Ziggy Balls, you're my guy. I appreciate you so much, man. It's fucking awesome stuff what we're doing here. And it's deep conversation. It's life. It's the highest level. And we're going to keep going. We're in the beginning. And I really appreciate you guys. So thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be on here in the morning at some point in the afternoon talking some futures into the next week. And I can't express how much I appreciate you guys so much. Sending you guys all the best vibes. Let's get better. Let's be stronger. Let's always do the right thing. And let's fucking grow. Sharky Waters Nation. Now it's a lifestyle. Ride the wave. Get out of the water. Let's go.